All right, everybody, what is going on? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are still doing well. And we got to check in with this one because this is going to be one of the more interesting ones of this off season. ESPN's doing their little article series. I've talked about it plenty in previous videos. And today was the day where they revealed their wide receiver rankings. Now, remember, just to reiterate, these are GMs, coaches, and scouts who are voting on this. So these should be the guys who know what's up. If they say something, you would think and you would hope they have a good reason for it. So I understand that there are other groups that do rankings, and we'll look at another one before the end of this video, by the way, but this one should have some credence. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. And wide receiver is the position where Seattle is currently sitting in a pretty good spot. Not that they have multiple guys that you would look for on a list like this, but they do have one guy who you would look for very high on this list. So let's take a look. Executives, coaches, and scouts rank the top NFL wide receivers. Let's see what they got. Again, these are the guys who theoretically should know what's going on here. And Ja'Marr Chase kind of ran away with it this year. I'll say that. Ja'Marr Chase, number one. Nobody gave him a ranking lower than 3. So for the second year in a row, Ja'Marr Chase is the number 1 receiver in football, according to this group. And I think that's probably correct. I think that's probably what I would go with as well. He's certainly in the top 3. And I think 1 is probably correct. So on board with that. Number 2, Justin Jefferson. So that's interesting because there are definitely some people out there, like I know Madden, and I know Madden isn't worth taking seriously, but Madden ranked him at like 94 overall. So there are definitely some people who are cooling a little bit on Justin Jefferson after the not so great year last year, but clearly the decision makers in the NFL believe that his struggles last year had much more to do with JJ McCarthy than anything else. And I think that's reasonable. I'm not necessarily saying I agree with it, but I do think that Justin Jefferson is still one of the best players in the league, one of the best receivers we've seen for a while now. So Justin Jefferson at number 2, I I can see it. I don't know if I necessarily go with that at this point in time, but there's definitely stuff going on with Justin Jefferson that goes beyond just his production. You can't just look at his numbers and say, well, that's that. And then we get to our boy here, JSN, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, comes in at number 3. So that is pretty darn strong. Number 3 overall. So just behind those top 2 guys. And look, here's what I will say. Like I said, I do think Ja'Marr Chase is probably the best receiver in football right now. Jefferson, it's a little bit tougher right now, but both of those guys are much more pure outside number 1 type receivers than JSN. As much as JSN did play nominally on the outside last year, it's not quite the same as what Chase and Jefferson can do. JSN finds ways to kind of toe the line between an outside receiver and a slot receiver with how Kubiak deploys him. That's something we've talked about before. So I can understand saying you'd rather have those 2 guys because of that, if nothing else. So I don't know if I agree with Jefferson. I do agree with Chase, but either way, JSN, number 3, not unhappy about that. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. If you look at the write-up here, he did get for at least one first place vote. His lowest ranking was a 7th. I didn't know this, although I did understand that he had a really, really high percentage of our receiving yards last year. He had 44% of our receiving yards in 2025, which is the highest since 2012, with Brandon Marshall getting 46. So that's pretty cool. Smith-Njigba was one of 3 receivers to appear on every ballot, so it does seem like what this is telling you is that the top tier right now is Chase, Jefferson, JSN. And then you have a tier 2 kind of developing after that. Reminds me of Cooper Kupp in 2021, only JSN is better on the outside than Kupp was. I love his game, but he's not the elite outside player those top guys are, which is what I was talking about earlier. So that is probably the main holdup here. Because I do kind of feel like if you look at just straight up production, JSN's probably number 1, but the context does matter here. And as much as JSN isn't a pure slot guy anymore, he's not the pure outside guy that a true best receiver in football typically is. That was a common refrain from voters when game planning. Smith-Njigba doesn't strike fear in coaches like some others do, but he aligned out wide on more than 80% of his snaps last season, producing a league high rate 10.9 in the process per target in the process, with a stellar 0.6% drop rate. So this is interesting, right? Smith doesn't strike fear in coaches like some others do. That's probably true. The thing is, though, I think teams regretted having that perspective, because the main thing that happened last year, or one of the main things, is that teams stacked the box against the Seahawks defensively because they didn't believe that Smith-Njigba could punish them. And then Smith-Njigba punished them over and over and over again. And eventually, by the end of the season, they kind of learned that, like, wait a minute, we should probably be afraid of that guy. He's really, really good. So I don't know if that should be like a strike against him, but maybe he just has to do it for one more year. And that's kind of what this one quote here alludes to. Super talented, but this is the first year he really played outside. If he does it again and plays well, he can jump to the top. So basically, if JSN can have another elite season this year, which I do think that he will, then maybe he'll be in first place next year. Who knows? He does have some tough competition to beat at the top. All right, so I don't think any of us would expect any more Seahawks to show up on this list, but just to go through the rest of it, Puka's at 4, Amon-Ra's at 5, CeeDee Lamb is at 6. So you're once you get to that point, like once you get past maybe 7 with George Pickens, feels like there's a steep drop off. Like, I have all the respect in the world for George Pickens on the football field, but once you get past George Pickens, Nico Collins, I mean, hey, great player, but that's the 8th best receiver in football right now. And then A.J. Brown coming off the year that he just had. That doesn't feel right. And then you get Devontae Adams, who was mostly a goal line receiver last year. He had all those touchdowns, but didn't even have 800 yards. That feels a little bit funky too. And then honorable mention, the top guy is Malik Neighbors, whose knee is made out of brisket right now, and Mike Evans, who barely played last year. I mean, Tyreek Hill is an honorable mention. He's not even on a team right now. It's like once you get past the top 7 or 8 guys, maybe it doesn't feel that great at the receiver spot. Then again, I look at a guy like Drake London and wonder how he's not higher. So maybe it's just a matter of who you're putting up there. Zay Flowers is here in honorable mention. You've got Jamison Williams in honorable mention. Other guys receiving votes: Alec Pierce, T. Higgins, our old buddy DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith, Ladd McConkey, BTJ. That's a guy who really needs to lock in, because he's absolutely capable of being a top 10 receiver. Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. So no Kupp, no Shaheed, which I think we would all expect. Neither of those guys should be considered top 10 receivers by anybody. Yeah, that's really all there is to say. Now, while we're here, because I don't want to make a separate video for this, Pro Football Focus did their receiver rankings today as well. And they came at it with a little bit of a different perspective, right? They had, I believe, the same top 4, but they completely switched up the order. In fact, they went in reverse order on the top 4. Puka was their number 1. JSN was their number 2, so JSN's 1 spot higher here. Jefferson's number 3. Chase is number 4. So that's kind of interesting that they would flip that. Can't say I agree with that. To me, Chase should be number 1, and having him outside the top 3 to me is very, very goofy. But then you go Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown. Can we see A.J. Brown actually play good football again before we start crowning him? Because I did not enjoy a single second of my time watching A.J. Brown play football last year. Whatever, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, George Pickens, Drake London, Zay Flowers, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans. I think that's a slightly more reasonable spot for a guy like Mike Evans at this point. Stephon Diggs, who isn't even on a team, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Malik Neighbors, Alec Pierce, Jameson Williams, Tet McMillan, Devontae Adams. So big discrepancy there. ESPN's list, or, the official list was 10, and PFF put him at 24. So you can see where the discrepancies come in. Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, McConkey, Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice, Michael Wilson, somehow ahead of Marvin Harrison, which imagine trying to predict that a couple years ago. Calvin Ridley, and then they have Tyreek Hill as an honorable mention. So, that one's complicated. I understand that that's difficult, but I don't understand talking about Tyreek Hill right now as a player in this NFL when he's completely when we don't even know if he's ever going to play football again at this point, and I would kind of bet against him. Nevertheless, JSN's number 2 here, number 3 over here. So either way, he is that top tier dude. All right, I'm going to get on out of here. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with these rankings. I think it's pretty much on point. I'm not against it. And yeah, pretty good place to be. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Everyone have a great day.